Hello everyone and welcome to the third and final week of collage and acrylic. Today I'm going to be looking at landscape and textures. As you can see in front of you, I have an image that I'm going to work from. I'm going to work pretty closely to all the textures I see, but I'm going to be experimenting as I go as well. I've got a lot of different media here. I've got tissue, I've got twigs. I wanted to go natural with this because it is landscape, so I fished around in my garden until I found a few little bits of dried up leaves and twigs and that kind of thing. Grasses as well. So yeah, I thought that was quite nice. I'm not sure where I'm going to put it. It might do as the tree the other way around, I'm not sure. I've got a piece of fir tree and I might incorporate that in the texture. I've got some leaves which I might be gluing down on the fields and the grasses at the front to get a little bit of an interesting texture. I have wood which is dried out and very old, and I think that would be really good for the rocks, for the texture there. I've got some magazines, so this is from an old Christmas white stuff magazine from last year, and I'm going to be doing the mountains with this, so I went for colours that were similar. So you've got brickwork there, and I thought I'd put that on maybe, and maybe paint over it so a little bit of the pattern shows. And I've also got a very dark image of a dress, which might be too dark. We'll see as we go. And I've got heavy gel gloss acrylic. Well, this is extra heavy. It's by Golden. I'll just make sure that you can see it. And if you have a look inside, you can see how thick it is, the consistency. And I'm looking forward to mixing some paint with that. I also have some flax seeds, which I might use for texture in the foreground. You can use rice, lentils, beans, anything like that. It all adds to the interest of the piece that you're doing. I chose these because they're quite fine, because I wanted to find texture. And I also have some very old worn out sanding discs, which I thought might be quite nice to go on one of the mountains. There's some striations going along there, and I thought that echoed the lines on the mountains, so I might be chopping those up. The surface I'm going to be working on is just the back of the demonstration I did the other week of the shirt. So I've already mixed a lot of paint on this, so I thought it's already got a bit of texture, and it doesn't really have to be on the front of the canvas, it can be on the back. Any kind of board will do. If you're going to be sticking something heavy on, like if you're going to be sticking stones on or even wood, that kind of thing, you might want something a little bit strong and solid rather than paper. I've also got my glue, which is Wix weatherproof wood adhesive, and my water for my paint, and I'm going to use again a brush to put the glue on. So to begin, I'm going to start with the sky. Usually on a landscape I work background to foreground. The background's going to be cool, as in the painting, and the foreground's going to have a little bit more colour and be a little bit warmer. This is a travel brochure, and I thought it might be interesting just to do a collage of all the different skies, just to give the feel of something. So I'm going to start. So now I have enough sky, and I'm just going to start painting over the area where these are going to go. So I can do it reasonably accurately, I'm going to look at my picture and just coat the areas where there are no mountains. So I can draw the mountains a little bit with my glue. So it goes over there. So I'm putting on a lot because I want it to stick. I don't want to be having to re-stick things as I go. when I've moved on from areas. I'll put that over there. And so looking at the sky here, I really like that. So I'm going to have a little bit of a sunset sky. Oops. You don't have to be too accurate because you can put layer over layer. So I'm going to put that about to there. I'll take the spire out. It's very rough, but I'm going to put a little bit of glue behind that because it's quite low. And I can go over the edge, I can overlap, and I can actually leave that if I want to. What I might do is overlap at the bottom in the foreground to bring that forward and trim around the back. But I'll leave it going over the edge for now. So maybe that there. And that's my sky. So moving on to the mountains, I'm going to be using scissors to cut out shapes to get an accuracy. And I'm thinking that I'm going to make this textural this side, but this is going to be, because it's so distant, it's going to be smooth. In a painting or a collage, you will find that the more textural areas will draw the eye more than the smoother areas. So if you've got a focal point, which is this, you might want to put your texture in there as well as your warm colours and as well as your contrast between your light and your dark. So I'm going to look at what I've got. I quite like my Mayan temple actually, but I think, you know what, actually I think I'm going to put that in as the top of my mountain. That was a little bit of an afterthought, and that's sometimes when you have your best ideas. So I'm going to just tear it a little bit or cut it to the shape of the mountain, and I think it'd be quite interesting to have a Mayan temple in my mountain, even though this is Derbyshire. So that goes up to about there. Yeah, I like that. I might put a glaze of blue over it to make it darker. So I can paint the back of this, or I can paint onto the board. I'll paint the back. So that will go about, probably about here. It already stands out against the sky because it is darker. And I'm going to bring down, I'm going to use some of this brick actually on the lower area. I think that would be quite interesting. And I'm thinking that I'm going to tear it. So let's see how it looks. Yep, like that. So the patterns I was going to use, I'm not going to use now because I like the brick more. And I'm going to take a piece over here, in which case I'm going to cut it. So over to there. I want my Mayan temple to be in front of it. So I'm just going to cut out a shape like that. Terribly wrong. It goes down. That's better. So yeah, happy with that. So I'm going to stick those on. Again, I might paint the back. No, actually I put glue on onto the board rather than the back of the paper. So what my thinking is that I'm going to be glazing over light areas, so I might glaze over some white here and glaze some white mist in here as well as I go. So that will be the painting aspect of it. That, and I think some painting on here with the gel medium, and also down here. This is going to be very three-dimensional, this area at the front. Don't want any straight edges, so I'm just trimming that by tearing it. And I think I'll have a little spare bit I'll put in there. I've got the paint that's already on this, which will show through if I leave any spaces. I'm going to trim the edge here because it's off-putting, because my composition needs to be thought out a little bit more, and you can't really do that when you've got some of the image coming off at one side. Turn it over, better. Oh, and there. So that's my mountain in the background. And so for this mountain, I'm thinking I'm going to definitely use this the sanding discs. However, I want to think about this area. I think I'll paint this after I put this on. So again, a lot of blue. And I'm going to paint the shape of the mountain so it goes up there. I'm going to have it, in the image, it's about the same height as this one. So I could go a little bit higher. I think I'll go slightly lower. And that goes down there. Looking at it, the tree goes about halfway up. No, it doesn't actually. It's higher than halfway. So I want to make sure that I leave enough space for my tree. Tree will come to about here, which is absolutely fine. And I think what will happen as I go is that I'll start to move away from the picture and be looking at this again as the final piece and what looks good here. Do need a lot of this to stick the heavy sandpaper. Now this is where you shouldn't use your decent scissors, because it'll just end up in tears, because this blunt scissors really horribly. So there's quite a ragged edge down that mountain, so I'm just going to cut a few bits out. You could use fabric if you don't want to be using too much card. Hessian's always really good for textural pieces of collage. So what I should have done is leave the paint to dry a little bit to make it more tacky. I actually find that I quite like the holes, so that'd be interesting. So looking at that, that goes down to about there. When I put the wood on, I'm actually thinking of building up layers around it with tissue to make it very three-dimensional. Right, I think I'm going to have to go back and press that down again, because at the moment it's not adhering. This one's nice, it gives you a fair amount of texture. So I just lay it on to see how it will look before sticking it down. So that's getting a little bit tacky because it's very warm today, so it's drying a lot better. If it does lump up, it doesn't really matter too much. It all adds to the interest. I'm going to use a little bit down here, I think, to fill this area in. Scissors. So that is starting to stick a little bit more solidly. Now, had I thought on, I would have bought two. Didn't buy this, I picked it up. Where did I pick it up? It was in Sainsbury's. Had I thought on, I would have got two of these because I could have reflected the temple down there. So I'm looking at what I've got, and I could do that upside down. It's a bit small. Maybe that's upside down. That might be quite interesting. So I need to rip it there. My rubbish is heaping itself up at the edge of the table over here. Would that work? I think it might work a little bit. I'll cut it out and put it on anyway. Well, I think I'll tear it. I can always stick something over it if it doesn't work. So that is going to go down there with the triangle directly below. I'm going to have to rip a bit more off. Sort of a reflection. So now what I'm doing is I've laid out my paints and also a lot of the gel medium, and I'm going to paint the area around the pond, lake, sorry, it's hardly a pond, and I'm going to fill in these shapes here and just take the paint up into the mountain and paint the mountain as well. And yes, I'm going to be using gel down here. So I want the foreground to be hotter, so this back area is going to be cooler. So I'm going to take quite a lump of gel. Some of this has dried in it, but then that's quite nice because you get more lumps and texture. I'm going to use a little bit of cadmium yellow deep. Oh, sorry, I didn't go through my colours. I've got phthalo green, cadmium yellow deep, white, titanium white, ultramarine blue, cadmium red deep, and this is cadmium yellow light. So my order isn't particularly good. I usually put the warmer colours together and the cooler colours together. But anyway, so I'm just mixing a rather loud colour. That's way too loud. I might put some ultramarine in it to take it down to a bit more of a blue. And it's a little bit dark. I'll put too much white in now, so I'm going to have to add more colour. And it's a little bit more olive colour in the picture, which I prefer. So I'm going to add some red and some more of the yellow. Now, when you're using gel medium like this, what happens is it does improve the consistency and it does make it very, very stiff. However, you do lose colour because you're actually watering down the colour with the gel. I think a little bit more yellow and a bit more red. So I don't have to completely mix it. It's nice to have a few little shots of red going through it. There's a darker area around there, so I'll take some more gel and some cadmium red deep, cad yellow deep. I actually like that. That's actually reasonably close. So, and it's warmer, so I might cool it down a bit with a little bit of blue. That was a mistake. It's gone a bit brown, but anyway, we'll see what happens with that. So for going over to the mountain over here, I do need some blue. bit of blue there. And I think a little bit of dark green, because it is a green blue. This phthalo green is really powerful. So that will do. This is an old brush. It's a very cheap brush actually, but it adds to the texture. So to take my lighter colour, I've got the feeling this might be a little bit too dark. I'm just putting it on. I think that's too dark. I'm going to take a little bit of the lemon yellow and a bit of white, because the light is hitting it somewhat over there. What I should have actually done is paint my mountain first with glazes. But I can do this afterwards. I'm trying to build up quite a solid shape. It's almost like sculpting. And then you've got the other side that goes over here onto the mountain. And this pale green goes up the mountain a little bit. And then coming in over here. Now I don't particularly want to cover up my whatever that is, my reflection, so I'm going to go close to it but not go over it. And the other side I'm going to go a bit darker now. Collage has quite an interesting history. It really started, I suppose, around the time of just after the First World War. Picasso used it, Georges Braque, Henri Matisse, and it was very, very experimental. I think in the early days, yeah, they combined collage and paint, but it was really in the 60s that it came to the fore, and it came came into its own. And then it's not really been that fashionable in recent years. So I'm going to go around here. Now this area is a lot lighter, so I'm going to take some of my white here and just scoop this up. And what's happening is I think the sky in this photograph is actually too dark, so the edges of my lake are not showing up. So what I'll do is I'll put a glaze of pale in there when I do the mountain. So there's quite a nice orange little island of land just in here. So I'll put that in. Goes down there a bit. So I'm not trying to be too representational. So this goes down to here. But I think I could make a lot lighter. Take some of that green, mix it in, and take that over there. Now I'm using small upward strokes of the brush. You can go sideways if you want. I always prefer mark making by doing vertical strokes rather than horizontal. So I'm just looking to see if there's any areas of light while I've got this colour. I'm going to have a little bit more light along here and here, and that's areas very dark, so I'm going to go into my blue, take a bit of this brown, put that into it, and go into this to make it darker. And then that goes behind the foreground. And into the mountain. Good. I think my collage is peeling off. So I'm painting this over areas that aren't dry. So I'm going to go into my mountain a little bit. And I'm going to do this quite gloomy and dark because it's dramatic. However, first I'm going to put a glaze on that side. I've got here acrylic glazing liquid, which is gloss, so I'm going to use some of that. You can see the difference between that and that. So I want the picture to show through on my mountain. So what I'm going to do is just mix a little bit of a blue purple colour into this. And it flows really nicely. It's very slimy. I'm going to possibly dull it down with a touch of green. That's a better colour actually, that's quite close. I'm going to use a lot more gel than that though. So over the top, this might actually be too thick. Yep, it's too thick. So what I'll do is mix a little bit of glaze on my brush and then just put it over. And I'm going down over my bricks as well because I want them to, don't want them to stand out too much. I want them to be subtle. If you start to get rippling effect with the magazine that you've stuck down, don't panic, because what happens is when it dries it flattens out. So I'm going to go a little bit darker over on this side. So with glazing you can start very pale and work your way down darker, or you can change the colour, which I've done from brown to blue. Like that. And maybe a little bit of blue over here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the glaze medium, the gloss one, this one, with some titanium white. Move that. And I'm going to just put some in the sky so the mountain comes forward more, and also add a little bit of mist into here. So this is my mist. Now I don't want brush strokes at the edge, so I'm going to do a little bit of scumbling. I'm going to put some glaze onto my brush and scumble. So my bricks have disappeared a little bit, but you've still got little hints of them, and I like that. I'm going to make that nearly disappear. I might actually take some of that out and I get more texture. That's quite nice. And so going on to the sky, I'm going to lighten this area here. There's a hint of yellow in there actually. I could add a hint of the lemon yellow into the white. Not too much though, just to give a little bit of hue. And what that will do is it will intensify the light because it's behaving against blue, and being split complementary of the colour wheel, the blue will enhance the yellow that I've just put in the glaze. A bit more yellow maybe. And I need to go a lot paler just here. So I can let this dry and then glaze over again. Just keep building it up like that. And also if I want to blend this line a bit, I could just tap in and use a bit of that purple to overlap those two shapes to make them a bit more harmonious. And probably go up into here a little bit, like that. You can actually make one piece of collage disappear into another just by painting around the edges. So I could mix this orange colour and then take some of that into this blue, and then slowly that line of collage will disappear. At the end of the video, I'm going to put a list of collage artists you might like to have a look at, all doing different kinds of things. So, oh yes, I know, I'm going to lighten this area here. I don't really think that works as a reflection, but if I was going to do this again, I would buy 2 magazines. Go over this a little bit with white. I'm getting lines because of my texture of my brush. That's better. So that takes that back a bit. And maybe because it is so much paler here, I'll go in with more white with glaze. Oops, too much. So around the edge of the pond, I'm going to go darker. It's quite dull there. The mountain still comes forward. I think that's because of the temple. But this will become much more strong when I put the dark colour on it. So I can allow a little bit of the brown of the sandpaper to come through. And already this is going backwards. So I want a bit more blue and red. When you're painting over texture, it takes an awful lot of paint. I'm going to leave some of the white. And put in a little bit more green further down. There we go. Bit of this yellow. Oh, I've gone and put white in it. Okay, well that can go over here because it is a bit lighter. Over there. It's quite a nice path that runs through. I'll put that on afterwards. I need to make this quite runny, otherwise it just doesn't go on at all. So I'm losing my striations a little bit. And the tree is lighter than the background, so I'm going to take this dark colour down to the water's edge, over this bit here. There's a little area of light just up here. And yeah, I've got the path, but I will look at that after. So you can build the paint up quite quickly and quite thick. Take that down there. And I think I'm going to put a little bit more of a pale colour into my reflection. I could, if I wanted to, get some more sky and just stick it in there, but I'm going to, for now, just glaze some white. Really, for glazing, if you don't want to have a texture like the texture I'm putting in, you want to go with a softer brush. Take a little bit of blue in there, I think. And I'm going to just slightly darken this. So, and with a little bit of a warmer colour in it, I've taken away, it was some kind of castle, I've taken away a lot of the detail. So it's a similar shape to the mountain. Reflections are usually paler. Not that pale though, you can go a bit darker. A bit more blue. And what that does is it sends the land forward in the distance there. So now onto the foreground. So what I'm going to do is use more of the heavy gel, and I'm going to possibly into that put some, maybe some of the fir tree, some of this. Or I could put some of the flax seeds. So I'm going to see how it looks. Might put both in. So we start off very dark here, and that kind of leads your eye over to this area. However, it's much warmer and it is paler. So I'm going to mix a much paler colour with what I've got here. And I'm going to put some lemon into it. Ooh, that's acidic. Some white. That's actually quite close, but it's not quite warm enough. I'm going to mix an orange, and I'll put some of that in as well. Because this is very thick gel medium, what I can do is paint it on and then just put the flax seeds on top. So my rocks are going to go about here. So this will lead up to there. So this is just a start really. I'll be laying on more paint, I think, after the flax seeds go on. So you have a bit of a shadow running over here. And a little bit of a highlight on the edge of where the rocks are going to go. I'm actually a little bit low down here. So what I could do is cut into my lake a little bit, just mix a bit more of a colour. And have this little bit of land a bit further in. And then bring that dark area higher up. And then I can bring this a little bit up as well. So I'm going to go a bit more acidic to bring it forward, a bit of red. So you've got a little bit of a bit jutting up there. It's still too dark. Probably not quite green enough. Put a bit of green into it. And while it's still wet, it's drying very quickly at the moment because of the heat here. I'm going to put my flax seeds in. and just press them. A few over here. And also I'm going to put some of the fir tree. I might have to actually put a bit more glue in that. Just need to put some more glue in my pot. So there's a shadow here. I might put some of the fir tree in the shadow. Sort of falls apart as soon as you touch it, this. You can use bits of driftwood that you've found as whole pieces. You don't have to go with texture like this. You can use great big lumps of objects. If the glue's strong enough to hold it, you can put anything on. So that will carry on up there. I quite like the way that goes, overlaps the lake a little bit. The glue will dry clear, and I'll probably paint it a little bit lighter. I really like that, so I'm going to take more glue and put some over this yellow area. And it's very messy, as you can see, it goes everywhere. And what I'll probably do is paint the shadows in again when the glue is dry. I actually quite like the way some of these have ended up going up the mountain, so I'm going to go with a little bit of that on this side as well. And as the glue dries, I'll keep pressing these down, but if I decide to put a thick varnish on or a few coats, what will happen is these will go quite rigid, so it doesn't matter if they're not stuck down. I think this lake area isn't coming forward enough, but maybe when I get my, I think what I'll do is before I put my rocks on, I'm going to put some white over it again to bring it out a bit. And then what I'll do is I'll do a little bit of dark paint around the edge of the land, and hopefully that will bring it out. Bit of ultramarine. And then maybe a bit of the mountain blue just there. And I'll soften that a little bit. That's a little bit better. And then I'm going to use a dark colour to go around the edges to suggest just the edge of the land. So now I think I'm ready to put my rocks on. So here's the wood. I did have another piece somewhere, but everything has become buried. Oh, there it is. This is the problem of having a little small table to work on. So, I thought that was quite a nice shape to go on there. I'm going to put that there, I think. So I'm going to play a little bit. I'm going to snap that. It's very rotten, so it snaps quite easily. And I might even try using my scissors. Yep, nice bit of rock there. I think I might move them across a little bit and down. And I'd like a little piece here, but I'm losing the land a little bit, so I'll have to judge that. I can put a few, maybe something like that. And also there's a little bit of rock here, so I can just break a little bit off and maybe have a piece there, like that. Now you're going to need an awful lot of glue. Oops, missed. Especially on this great big one. So just pile it on. Doesn't have to be completely glued all the way along, but what will happen when that dries, it will dry really firmly. I like the idea of having that over there, but I'll have to put an awful lot of glue. So you can build up layer after layer and then paint over it to harmonise it all. This wood, fortunately enough, has a very smooth area on the back, so it's quite easy to glue. You can go up a little bit, get rid of that. And I think I'll have a few little bits of this stuff, maybe a piece in there. And actually that will counterbalance if I have that there like that, with maybe another little piece, even something as tiny as that. That will bring the eye to here, which is the focal point with the tree. The tree is going to go over this area a little bit, I think, although it doesn't in the picture. So more glue. I'm pretty much going to leave the wood colour for the rocks because I think it works really well. But I'm going to put a few little highlights on it. So, oops, put my brush in the water again. So taking my white, bit of glaze, and just running a little bit of white along the edges. That's probably too white, so I'll take that down a bit with a bit of a warm yellow. It's going to work a little bit better. And this has more of a white inside. Like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to look at it tonally and tweak it a little bit. So I'm going to put a much paler yellow in here. That's too pale. Maybe put a bit of red into it, make it an interesting colour. To go over this area here to lighten it. and up there, so that this comes forward a little bit. See, my glue slipped, so I'm going to just take that off. It won't be seen when it dries. And also the light comes over on the other side of these rocks as well, so a little bit paler in there. I actually like the colour of the dried fir tree bristles, so I'll keep that colour. What happens is, if they start to peel off a little bit, wait until it's dry and then drop some glue onto it, and it will just drop into it and it will stick it. I could even use a little bit of tissue paper to build up this area here. Put that over there, I think. Unless I'm happy with that. I'm not entirely happy with this actually. So I'm going to put the path in that I can see. So a little bit of water, and the path's a pale blue actually, which might work quite well. So the path goes up and into the tree. Could even go a little bit abstract there and just have it straight. I haven't actually trimmed the sandpaper, but I actually like that, so I might trim this at the top there and just have this like that, because I like the way it leans upwards and the movement in there. It does take your eye off a little bit, which is why I need to bring the eye back in. So a little bit of, that's too light, a little bit of highlight on paths, maybe. That was too thick, so I'll go over that a little bit. And maybe I need to paint in some striations a little bit. So onto the focal point. Still not happy about this area here. It needs to be much paler than that area there. Unless actually I added a little bit of light into this side. That might make it, actually that makes it a little bit interesting over here. But what I'm going to do now is put my tree on. So I have the choice of, I could put this on that way maybe, or that way, or the other thing I had was this here. I'm wondering actually with this, if I use the scissors and cut all of these long pieces off, sorry, do this in front of the camera, until I've only got a couple, and they could be the trunk. So we'll see what that looks like. Could actually snap them. It's going all over my picture, but actually if it sticks, that's nice, like that. Yeah. If it sticks, it's fine. Manipulate it a little bit. And I quite like that. It's a bit of a strange tree, but I like it. So I'll just trim these bits. I actually didn't use my leaves in the end. No, it looks like a tripod. Let's go a bit further and cut a few more of these off. Oh, I've chopped most of them off. That's actually a little bit better. That's much better. So that is going to be glued on. I'm going to let a little bit of this twigginess go down here. I do like this one. I need a bit more glue for that though to stick on. some glue there and stick that down. So yes, quite a few of these things are falling off. And I think what I'll do is pour out some more glue and put an awful lot on my tree. So I don't need to stick the trunk, just put an awful lot where the top bit's going to go. And into there. Spread it a bit. So I think what's the problem area left is this area here. So I'm thinking of making this a lot lighter with a little bit more red and putting hints of red around. So taking the cadmium yellow light, touch of the green and a touch of the red to make it more olive. And I'm going to put in, oh, that's quite dark. It's very deceptive sometimes from the palette to the painting. That's too white. More yellow. And a little bit of orange in there, into this bit. So that's lightened it a little bit. And I think I need to put some orange into the rest of it as well. So it could go into there a bit. And take that blue a little bit further across as well. So this needs to be darker in there. And so, as I usually do at the end of a painting, I'd probably put this on one side and have a think about it and think about if it's enough, if there's enough collage interest, which bits work, which don't, and what needs bringing forward, what might need repainting, where I could maybe add a little bit of texture, so harmonise the whole thing. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and again, I hope you have a go. It's really good fun, and don't worry if it doesn't always work. It's just the process is the interesting learning experience. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.